I just gave you, KKINSER@brisbaneca.org, or at telephone number 415-508-2133. Notification in advance of the meeting will enable the city to make reasonable arrangements to ensure accessibility to this meeting. Okay, thank you. Why don't we proceed to a call to order then? I call this meeting to order. Could we have a roll call, please? Should I do that if Matt does not have a microphone?
I've been doing it, so it's fine. Cabrera?
Okay.
Present.
Detmer?
Present.
Tainter?
Present.
I'm going alphabetically. And Wadzia?
Present.
I'd like to officially welcome our new member to the committee, Dariusz Wadzia. Welcome, and thank you for volunteering. We appreciate it and look forward to your contribution.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it as well.
We also have another new member of the committee, not of the committee, but of staff that will be assisting us. I think he is behind the City of Brisbane logo at the moment. And I forget I don't know his last name. His first name is Tomas. He's an intern. Is that right, Karen? With the city?
He's assistant engineer.
Assistant engineer. Great. Okay. What is it? Tell me his last name again.
Tomas Santoyo Velasquez, but you can call him Tomas Santoyo.
Okay. Tomas, welcome aboard, and we're glad to have your assistance. We will put you to work, no doubt.
We got a chat from him. I can tell you a tiny bit about Tomas, and you can, I guess, talk to him at the next meeting. Graduated from Cal State Long Beach, interned with Marin County Parks for a time, Sonoma Clean Power, and then some time at Port of San Francisco, and then applied for a permanent position with Brisbane and, excelled in the interview process. So happy to have him aboard, getting him up to speed on stuff.
Great. That sounds great. Okay, by roll call, we have a quorum. So I would like to move on to an adoption of the agenda. I'm sure everybody's had a chance to see that. Could I have a motion to adopt the agenda as it is written? Committee members?
I move to adopt it as written.
Okay. Is there a second? Thank you. Is there any changes, discussions, deletions that anybody would like to propose? No? Okay. Could we then vote on that? Have a roll call on that, please?
Cabrera?
Okay.
Detmer? I'm going to think she's passing, right?
No, aye.
Okay, thank you. Tainter?
Aye.
Wadzia?
Aye.
All right.
Okay.
If I can just interject, I will be listening to the meeting, and if there's voting to be done, I will try to get right back to you guys in time to vote with you. I do intend to participate, but from a different direction this way. So I'm gonna
Okay.
go away right now.
Okay.
You.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any oral communications? Are there members of the public to speak? You see, there was one a minute ago. I don't know if they're still here or not.
Are you sure? We have MCTV.
That was MCTV. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have not gotten any calls or emails, sorry,
Okay.
in advance of the meeting, and it doesn't look like we have any attendees that wish to
Okay.
speak on something not on the agenda.
All right. Let's move on then to the approval of the minutes. Did everybody have a chance to look at the minutes? Okay. Were there any corrections, deletions, or changes? No? Okay. I had none either. Could I have a motion then to accept the minutes from our last meeting on January 3rd?
I'll make a motion.
And I'll second that.
Okay, could we have a roll call, Karen?
Cabrera,
We have-
I'm here.
Aye.
Detmer,
Aye.
Painter,
Aye.
and Wozniak.
Aye.
I'm trying to get
Hold-
onto the computer and get off of my phone.
Are we able to post the work plan, Karen? There we go. Okay. Karen, would you like to go through that? But by the way, for those of you who did not see the council meeting where Karen presented this, Karen and then Linda chimed in with as well. It went extremely well, and I thought both of them did a terrific job in presenting our committee to both the accomplishments and our work plan, our suggested work plan to council. So Karen, I'll turn it over to you.
Like I said, trying to join on my computer. Oh, do that at the same time if you don't. It's so slow. Okay, what you see in front of you on my phone is very small. The council talked about all of the items that the committee presented as items they're interested in working on, and they thought that the first three on the proposed document that we presented were of highest priority, and then they wanted to add the item about trying to add a pedestrian path on the west side of Bayshore Boulevard between San Bruno Avenue to Old County. So what we show is the 4 main improvements, and then below the other items that were proposed that we didn't receive a no from the council, just that they had prioritized the other 4.
Okay. Any discussion from the committee? So really, number one, from a committee perspective, we pretty much finished our part of that at the January meeting and voted on our recommendation to be sent to council. Karen, at that meeting, you thought it would go to council in February. Has that happened yet?
Hang on one second.
Okay.
I guess while we wait, can I ask a question real quick?
Yes, absolutely.
So I guess historically, if something is not prioritized, what does that mean in terms of effort spent on that versus something that is prioritized?
So at least in the time that I have been on the committee, I think this is the first time that we as a committee have sent a suggested list to council. Okay. So and you can actually go back to the Zoom, go back to the tape, the recording on and listen to their discussion of our items. They didn't really talk about all of them. These other items, they may have had a comment or two, but one thing that they did say was they want the numbers 1, 2, and 3 were on our proposed work plan or suggested work plan. And they said they wanted us to finish those before we did anything else. So that part, and they said, do it in order. And then they added number 4 along Bayshore. There was also a lot of discussion regarding excessive speeds on Bayshore. There was discussion. Number 6 is a new California statute that allows cities in certain circumstances to reduce the speed limit to less than 25 in certain areas. And there was one council member expressed an interest in that. But they didn't set a priority on that. And actually, for the next 9 months, probably 1, 2, 3, and 4 is going to, well, 2, 3, and 4, and maybe will consume just about the full year, I have the feeling. Okay, so I'm not too worried that they didn't prioritize. If we need to during the, at least they said, they didn't say no to anything, which I think is great. As we need, as we work through projects and are looking for planning ahead, we can always go back to council and ask then to prioritize the remaining items.
Okay, thank you.
Does that answer your question?
It does indeed. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
And on number 1, when I bring it to council, which is going to be in April, I cannot get it ready.
April.
March.
Okay.
Okay. February, I don't know where February went, bringing the work plan. They may want to, you know, hunt it back to the committee, depending on how they feel
Sure.
about it. They may want us to, you guys to get involved in more detail on any one of the 3 pieces of the recommendation.
That's fine. And I think that was our thinking as well. We needed, we thought we came up with the best that we could come up with, and we wanted direction from council if they wanted us to work on it more. So I think that sounds good. Karen, could you let us know when that meeting is coming up? Let the whole committee know, and so that at least one of us can attend, and maybe all of us might be interested in attending.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
That's a good idea. So I connected by computer, so that's better. I can phone to see if anybody calls or check emails or whatever, or figure out what Tomas's technical issues are separately.
Right.
Anything else you wanted to talk about the work plan? I missed just a couple of minutes there.
Not really. Tomas, I'm sorry. Darius asked just what it meant, if it meant anything that they did not prioritize 5 through 9. And it was just kind of like, not really. They just didn't discuss it. So, for the most part. Any comments from anyone on the committee, or Christian? Did no? Oh, okay.
So I guess the question is, do we dive into the 2022 work plan and start to you know, see how we're going to develop a work task on it?
So our liaisons had directed us to work as a total committee, which is different than we've worked in the last, how we have worked in the last several years, which is we would have several projects ongoing by subgroups in the committee. And they have asked us to to give a try to working on one item at a time by the full committee. Now we can break the work into subtasks, into subgroups, but to just focus on one project at a time and bring it to closure before we move on to the next one. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Yeah, so I also think maybe we could probably talk about some of the conversation that we had with Pauline in respect to supposed to be some general training for the different committees involved in this one, to have like a standardized way of approaching, you know, the different projects that we're working on. So I wanted to see, you know, what's the status on that? We're supposed to have like a workshop, and also if it's possible, I mean, I did talk to Kalina. She thought it was a good idea to have like a template like a project template where we have some sort of guidance how to break down the different projects, like what will be the scope, the discovery phase, the data collection, and then have some conclusions on the project.
I think that's a good idea. Karen, any updates on the training that has been discussed?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I don't have any specifics. What I understand is that city clerk's office and the communications manager and possibly a few others were putting something together, and I guess the draft was a little too rough based on what the council was hoping for, so they went back to the drawing board. They didn't really pull in the committee staff, and I haven't seen what they've done, so it's probably, and then we'll have to schedule it, so it's probably 4 weeks out or more. It's not on the immediate horizon, I would say.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so
What about,
yeah. So in addition to that, have like some sort of central or official folder where we could, use as a reservoir and start putting this data. This will ensure continuity in terms of, when different members time come due or they have to leave for whatever reason, and we get new members, as it usually happens, we have a place where to go and continue the project.
That's a good idea, and I do have one comment related to that, and I'm maybe going out on a limb in terms of the intent, but I was told that there's a plan to have committee and commission members use a city email address. So there might be a way to have an access to a certain part of the file server that has committee member business on it going with that. I don't know that for a fact, but that might work out.
that would be very good.
I mean, is this something that, because what I also gathered from Colleen was for us to make suggestions, so in that sense, can we make a summary recommendations of this type of time frame? I mean, work frame, how to organize ourselves and see what they say, or should we just wait to see what they come up with?
I'm not sure. Related to the training, the workshop, or?
I mean, what we've been talking about,
Items, work items?
Yeah, do like a template. Maybe talk to the IT director of the city. I mean, there's so many different ways that we could have either like a Microsoft team set up for us, or even from Google Docs, something like that. Just to get the ball started.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of saying. I don't know when this email rollout is going to happen, but that would be probably easy to put together, and a Teams is a perfect idea. Then there's a Teams of the Complete Streets Committee, and you can keep the files there. Those relevant working documents.
What about having a project template? What Christian talked about at the beginning there, and I think that's independent of an IT solution, but it kind of like, okay, the phases that we go through, and then that just kind of sets up the filing system that kind of establishes the filing system that we would use. I don't know, Christian, if you have a format you use in contracting, or Karen, I'm sure there are standard engineering formats for running through a project that we might adapt for our use.
I'd be interested to see what Christian has in mind, even if it's a really just skeleton outline. Maybe you could send that to Patrick and I.
Yeah, definitely. I could do that. I mean, it's mainly an outline. To me, it would be like some sort of a work frame that we start populating it and get everybody on the same page. Especially now that I guess the idea is for the whole group to tackle one project at a time.
Okay, that'd be great. That would be good if you
Okay.
could send that on. Yeah.
Sure.
You're noting Linda has her hand raised. Patrick?
Oh, Linda. Yeah,
Hi,
sorry.
there I am. Just watching, the screen shows, is this what the council has given back to us based on the last meeting that we attended, Karen?
Yeah, they did not edit on the Word document. I did that, but I rewatched the meeting after Patrick and I got together to set the agenda. And yeah, they had asked that we did the first 3 items and added Bayshore, San Bruno to Old County, trying to put a pedestrian path on the west side. And so the other items were not their priority, but also not stricken from the list either.
Okay, that's great news.
Yeah.
I like what they chose. I think it's, those are some kind of important things. And Christian, thank you for helping us figure out how to negotiate through all of this. I think that's going to be very valuable. So just wanted to check in because it's the first time I've seen this. So thank you, and I'll be listening. Thank you.
Okay. In terms of a storage place, I mean, I can, in the interim, you know, Justin used to post things on his Google Drive, and I can do that and share it with everyone. And until we have something set up from the city, is that acceptable to do, Karen?
I would like to ask, just because, you know, serial meetings in Brown Act, I just want to be careful about that.
Okay. All right.
And
I mean, I
actually,
think
that might be, I don't know, that might preclude Teams actually, because you can communicate on Teams and then it's not open to the public, you know?
Well, but this is more a
Storage.
data depository than it is a discussion, especially if it's a Google Drive. I realize Teams has a communication element. Google Drive does not.
But if
And,
people are commenting on a document between each other, you know, normally you're sending stuff through me.
okay,
Man, and so
right.
just want to be careful. Maybe it's
So,
fine.
yeah.
I'm
So
not
we
the
set
attorney.
some ground rules there. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So it's not for commenting, it's for work being posted or findings being posted so that everybody can see them. And, you know, like say a subgroup goes out, for instance, let's talk about the next item on our number 2. Let's say a subgroup goes out and counts cars. That information could be just posted there, and then everybody could see that. Everybody, including yourself, you know, and Tomas, everybody would have access to that data whenever they wanted to go back and look at it, and it would all be in one place.
I mean, I like the idea for sure.
Okay. Okay. All right, we can talk about that further. Take that offline to set up and stuff. But Christian, if you can send us that template, and we can the outline, and we can start kind of putting things together. I think that'll be a really big help.
Sure, I'll do that.
Thank you. Shall we then move? If there's no more discussion, is there any more discussion on our work plan for the coming year? Okay, that being the case, why don't we get started with the next item on our work plan then, which is number 2, investigation of potential for one-way streets on Mariposa and Monterey between Visitacion and Solano. Karen, can you help bring us up to speed on that?
So Tomas, can you share the
Okay.
drawing that you did? Or the map that you made? Does it have a north arrow? Well, everybody knows where. We kind of just wanted to lay out what this item was about so that it was plain and obvious that what the path of travel would be to eliminate some of the conflicts and some of the safety issues at Solano.
What are the conflicts and safety issues, Karen?
So there's a difficult when you come up with Mariposa, which is what's it the direction of the arrows from Visitation up to Solano. It's very steep and a very sharp
Mhm.
grade change there, and
Okay.
some vehicles can't come to a complete stop and then make the turn. It is yield. You don't have to stop there, but if a car is coming, you have to come to a complete stop. And oftentimes people get nervous about it and they accelerate through that turn. I've been known to do that myself, I would admit. And some people, and some reports are that, they're like tires spin out, and depending on the vehicle, it can be challenging. The fire department possibly can't even make that turn. So what we're suggesting, and you've also got narrow streets with parking on both sides, and you can create more width in the street if you didn't have parking, but there's not enough room for two vehicles to pass the
Right.
parking.
I know. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't drive
And-
it often, but I've seen
Right,
that.
and then if there's a delivery, I do drive up to swim sometimes. There's scavengers picking up. There's just almost, you can't even get around back, continue up the street, and you're stopped and waiting. So the one-way idea would create more space, which makes visibility better and makes it safer, and also improves the problems at the turns. So the idea is Visitation is obviously two ways. So if you lived on Mariposa, you would have to go up Monterey, which is on the bottom of the screen, turn right on Solano, and come back down Mariposa. So Mariposa would only be one way down to Inyo, because otherwise, if you lived on Inyo, you'd have to do a big circuitous route to get to Inyo.
Oh, I see. Okay. How do you prevent people who may not know the area from like a delivery driver or something from continuing up on the two-way, thinking that the two-way did not end at Inyo?
Signs and
Okay.
pavement markings, and similar to, you might have seen when on my presentation about the no right turn on San Bruno, is that we put flags up above the signs to kind of draw people's attention to it, have the police there to educate, not write tickets necessarily day one. And as some of you, some longer term committee members remember about San Bruno, it took navigation apps and the map sites like about 6 months to start directing traffic the correct way. And that's, new people are gonna a lot of times use navigation. We'll tell you the right way to go.
Out of
So-
curiosity, just one question, Chris. Out of curiosity, did we notify Google and Apple and TomTom and all those people about the change, or not?
We notified Google and Apple, but they,
Okay.
don't necessarily jump right on an email from a small city.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm sorry, Christian, go ahead.
Yeah, so I do live on Mariposa Street, and in that particular area where this change is recommended, and from so a lot of the concerns that you mentioned, Karen, those are universal or general concerns that other streets have. In terms of they're narrow. If there's the garbage man, the garbage truck picking up garbage, you're gonna have a hard time going around it, and et cetera, et cetera. The only thing that I notice is when you turn right, to Solano to go to the school, that gets a little uncomfortable and hairy at times. But other than that, I think the street is just like any other street in Brisbane, being narrow, and it faces the same problems. The other question I have, behind Mariposa Street, there is another street that has a dead end. So I was just curious, why is that dead end, and why is that street not connected to Solano?
I think it's just prohibitively steep there. They're steps, so it's even steeper than this Mariposa connection. But I mean,
So it's because
I
of
don't,
the grade?
I think so, but I don't know the history. When I started working in Brisbane, it was like that. So I don't know. And I'm wondering, are you thinking that more streets should be one way? I honestly think it does create space, and where we have issues with pedestrians, if we could convince more of the community to have other one-way streets, it would actually be better. But no, it's a big change. Anything like big change. So I don't wanna-
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think the other question I have is how will you go about getting, the residents of Mariposa to have a saying on this? What's the approach?
Well, that's what we can talk about. That's what we should talk about. You guys being representatives of the community, we want you to play a part in those conversations.
So is that the first thing that will happen? Do like a little survey to see how much pushback we have or agreement?
And that's what we're here to talk about, I think. Open to whatever the committee thinks would be a
Also,
good way to do it.
what is the because I think this street is also part of the safe street.
Safe routes to,
Yeah,
safe
safe
routes to
route.
school.
Yeah, and what is the speed limit on Mariposa? I live here, but I don't remember seeing a speed sign.
Monterey is on the safe ped routes because the committee back all those years ago when they studied it, told staff that they observed mostly that kids that were going down to the center of town or to the park, going downhill, were going down San Francisco from Lippman, obviously, going straight down San Francisco, and ones that were going to the library or upper areas were going down Monterey Street, and that less of them used Mariposa than they expected. So that being said, any residential street with the existing laws we have, unless you're within 500 feet of a school, is 25 miles per hour. We might have put up the signs to reduce the speed. Nope, I think Solano. I don't know, I'm gonna have to look that up. That's a good question. I was thinking Solano is too far away, but I don't recall. It was a little more secured in my memory what we did around BES.
So, what will be so if you reverse the intersection preference, like letting the traffic that is going up to up on Solano, we may have the right of way, and then the people in Solano being the one to stop. I think that would sort of will be more manageable for the cars going up, because what happens is when you stop on that in the middle of this, like when you stop right there on the Solano intersection, and then you want to go on because the grade is so steep, that's when the tires start to
break.
Yeah. But if you give them the right of way, and then you have the people of Solano stop, that way they could just, and then reduce the speed limit. That might be a solution too.
Yeah, it might. It probably, again, that's despite the problems, a stop sign is probably not warranted for the amount of traffic. I guess I haven't probably ever been up there right when school's starting or getting out to see exactly how much traffic there is. Maybe we should put a counter out there and actually know what's going on. That could be helpful. I think there's also the issue of the emergency response, hiring things.
Do the school buses, how do the school buses go? They go up Solano, right?
Is there a school bus that even goes up?
Is there school bus service to Lippman?
I
Kristen,
don't
do you
think
know?
there is.
No.
I don't think
Yeah,
there is.
there is, and I think they could use either street, Mariposa or Monterey.
Okay. I would think they would have trouble with a grade and a turn if it's that difficult, say on Mariposa, making a right turn onto Solano, right? If the fire trucks are having that kind of a problem, I would think the school bus would as well. Linda, did you have a comment?
Yes, hi. I recall that some of the kids from Southern Hills do bus into Lippman School. And I'm
Okay.
wondering if we could designate the route up Mendocino Street, which is a much more level street with an easier turn onto Solano. Just a suggestion. Thank you.
Maybe that's how they go. I don't know. So, another question I have here, Karen, in terms of what has been proposed for which direction the streets go in, Mariposa becoming basically eastbound, Monterey becoming westbound. For people coming down Solano then, don't you now create, because they have to make a left turn, don't you create a potential conflict now with traffic coming northbound on Solano that was not there before because cars could turn at either Monterey or Mariposa?
Normal according to the calendar, and we'll see how we want to.
You mean
There is no recording.
drivers coming out of Lippman School or heading
All up.
westbound on Solano, and they
It says
see a car coming the other way when they reach Mariposa, so they decide to go to the next block to go down, and then they don't have a conflict? Is that what you're saying?
Well,
I mean, if you have to make a
Not-
left
not-
turn, you have a conflict while you're making a left turn at either block, right?
right, but you have more choices as to where to make the left turn. You're not all funneled into one choice,
recording.
right?
I think people are choosing the shortest routes where they're going.
Because that's
Okay.
me looking at the YouTube video.
Sorry about the background noise. I don't know
Where do we cut audio
what's
back?
hearing that.
If it was just.
I was gonna say, Darius, if you want to speak, it seemed like you wanted to. Raising your hand is.
Oh yeah, Darius, I
Yeah,
see your
quick
hand
question.
is up.
Yeah, I guess, so what is the issue for the emergency vehicles? Because right now they can go up either direction. Is it sort of a congestion there, or what is the sort of the concern with the emergency vehicles?
It's, Mariposa is quite a bit steeper than Monterey there. And that's they have a hard time making that right turn, getting up and making that right turn at Mariposa.
Okay.
Go ahead.
If the street is made wider, would that help with the turn and the steepness? I mean, can that be, if there's like an engineered solution to the intersections in terms of making it more flat?
That's a good question. I think you'd need a bit of space. I don't know exactly where the right of way is, but I think we've talked about right of way before. The city probably has 40 feet there, and the road width is probably 20. Maybe I'd have to look it up. I don't know, Tomas, you can look it up in the background. 20 something, so there is some right of way, but then homeowners have done improvements in the right of way because there'd be a blank spot where if you've built, well, not built, but if you put in, say, a lawn or a front yard or whatever, you'd have a blank spot maybe behind the sidewalk. And this person has, I think, retaining walls. I don't know. I mean, I didn't look at it closely, but I don't think there's a lot of space without compacting.
Can we do like a Google map and sort of check out the camera?
Street view.
Yeah,
Street view. Can we do a street view?
I mean, Karen, I guess where I'm going with this is, I'm sure, because I know a couple of, obviously, this is the street I've been for 13 years. So I know a lot of people on this street. And before they get asked, to make their street one way, some of them might like it, some of them might not. But it would be good to exhaust a lot of the different ways to have fixing the problem and having it both ways.
I agree.
Might one solution be to add a mirror at the top or something to help visibility? Is that something that'd be considered? Or would that even help for coming
Um,
up Mariposa?
I don't know that it would hurt, wouldn't hurt. There's another piece is having, and maybe I would hope that Randy would chime in, having a particular the ingress route that's for a general fire up on the mountain. Ingress and egress is that fire would come up Monterey and go up Humboldt, and that people would get over to San Bruno. But in this case, if you lived in this little pocket, it would be, you would have practiced that you would be going down a street that the engine wasn't coming up.
You mean
You've got the
evacuating
engines,
on Monterey, you mean?
no, evacuating on Mariposa while the emergency response comes up.
Okay. You would, meaning you would have to evacuate on Mariposa as opposed to Monterey. Right. Okay. So has North County Fire published their big routes that we had talked with them about a couple of years ago? Their evacuation routes map and all of that?
I don't know if they've published routes, but they've been working on, they talked about a couple of years ago, was developing this zone haven
Right.
notification program that would allow when a fire was in a certain area, evacuation of areas and notification of people in certain areas. So, unless it's a pretty big fire that requires all the upper streets to evacuate, could be kind of neighborhood, if that's the right word, by neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. So I guess a basic question I have is, in terms of statistics, do we have numerical data or police incident data that tells us these turns are in actuality a problem in terms of accidents or near misses, things like that?
I don't know, Christian, if you know the people that live at the corner, would be I guess the southeast corner, but they contact the city all the time about, and they said they've seen 3 accidents.
Oh, really?
In the past year or so. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if they would love the one-way street idea. Everybody on both streets would have to do a loop when you're either coming or going.
Are we able to do a street view?
I pinged Tomas. Tomas, can you unshare this and go to Google, show street view? Just working on it.
Cool.
Okay.
Because so the majority of the people, they go either to the pool or to the school, and then one thing that is a little puzzling to me is there is another exit that connects you to the Crockett Park in a way, but it's blocked. Because if people are able to thank you. If people are able to just, go and drop their kid and come out of the other way, that will save a lot of traffic in that area too.
That's a terrible alignment. That's steep, and it comes down right on
It's
that blind curve on South Hill where they
South
want
Hill,
kids
yeah.
to cross. That would be bad news to have cars coming out there. Not
And then
designed to be a road.
When the quarry's in operation, which may not be much longer, but when it is operating, the dump trucks hauling gravel just come roaring out of there. They barely stop.
But that quarry is going to be at a commission shortly soon, right?
Yes.
They're proposing like all different type of stuff over there.
Right.
And the grades are.
That is, yeah, I have driven this and now I'm remembering how steep it is.
So can you Tomas bring us down to Mariposa and turn us pointing uphill? You gotta drop down a little bit and turn it around. Drop down Mariposa.
So I'm wondering if
Yeah, that's good view. You were good where you were, I think.
optically it narrows. It optically with the red curve, it optically appears to narrow, even though it doesn't physically become narrower.
Yeah, that might just be the view.
Yeah, that might be. So can you slowly go up the hill now as if somebody were driving this, Tomas?
Start at the bottom.
No, go forward. Go forward.
Oh, okay, go forward up the hill.
Approaching, yeah, approaching the intersection, just slowly.
It only, you click once and it takes you that far, but turn to the right a little bit.
Yeah.
So what happens if you prohibit the traffic from Solano from making a left on Mariposa? Will that help?
You know, it might. I don't think it's the primary problem. But, you know, there might have been some accidents related to that.
Because that
Can we
that gets a little weird when, you know, one is going up and the other one is coming down and it's going to turn Mariposa, and there's always one wants to stop and the other wants to stop, you know, so they have that little dance all the time.
Can we turn to the left and look down Solano towards Monterey?
That's good.
So that has a poor line of sight with the bushes and parked cars there. Somebody coming up Mariposa until you have a poor line of sight of oncoming cars if you're coming into that intersection.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think, you know, some of us might need to do a drive through the streets and they get a hands-on experience on it, so to speak.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I mean, you're right about the cars. I think staff side were reluctant to try to start taking out parking.
Yeah.
To improve that, you know, the visibility. And that's why we came up with this one-way street idea, is you can keep the amount of parking and make it safer without, because yeah, if you could carve out a few parking spaces, it helps the visibility. It doesn't help with that uphill turn very much, but it helps a lot with the visibility.
If we were to put a mirror or multiple mirrors at this intersection, where would we put them? Would it be across the street at the T intersection? Okay.
It's picking up traffic from all three directions, or, you know, whatever is in view.
Right. We're getting more and more of those around town.
Yeah. Need them everywhere.
Are they effective? I never run into them so rarely, so I don't know.
I think they're helpful. Yeah.
Okay.
So they make everybody feel 100% safe. That's what you mean by effective. I don't know about that, but
right.
Things better.
But I mean, a mirror like that, the vehicles, it makes the vehicles appear very small, right? If it's a 180 convex. People can see it, I guess.
Yeah, you can see it. It depends how close the car gets, I guess.
So if we do it, you know, one way going down, and then you have, you know, the traffic in Solano who has the right of way if the people that are going to the school and the people that are coming back from the school, or you know, or just the opposite areas, they both want to turn into Mariposa. They both want to go down the hill. Who has the right? Who will have the right of way?
The right turn, because they don't have to cross traffic.
The right turn?
So the left turn has to wait till oncoming is clear.
You will have a sign there, or that's just common sense?
That's, yeah, you can't pass your driver's license. It's on the exam. I mean, I guess you can
Yeah,
pass.
but it's
I
quickly
don't know about
forgotten,
that.
Karen. Very
I know.
quickly forgotten.
Linda has her hand up.
Hi,
Oh,
guys.
Linda? Yeah.
I've
Hi.
been listening and I've been watching, and I just want to say this is an awful intersection. And some years ago, I can't remember exactly when, it might have been when we were initially studying safe walk routes to school. We interviewed people on the street about traffic and some of the problems up there, and it was pretty horrific. The sidewalks were blocked with overgrowth of bushes. A lot of that's been handled already just through the street department. I think the convex mirrors are a really good idea because they seem to work in so many places where there's limited view. And I think the mirrors are a wonderful idea. As to turning left from Mariposa onto Solano, I've been in a car accident there. From someone
Left or right?
turning left towards Monterey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've actually been plowed into doing that.
Oh.
And because of the sight lines, again, the parking, as we all know, is a nightmare. And at the time that we studied that, there was a proposal on the table to remove, I think it was 6, Karen, do you remember? 6 parking places to make it more visible, easier. And we found ways around that by trimming and that sort of thing. So this is something that this corner is something we've looked at before. And I don't know if there's any old minutes or anything we can look back at, but I just wanted to offer that as something that I'm familiar with. And I think it's a good idea to go up there and take a look,
Yes.
especially during the busy. But thank you.
And
Thank
are
you,
those
Linda.
busy times like start of school and when school lets
Yep.
out mostly,
Yeah.
or?
I would think so,
Exactly. Those are the
Karen.
busy times.
Yeah, when they're most traveled would probably be parents coming up to drop off kids, whatever time the swimming pool is most active. And we can probably figure that out as a group, what times, and then, each of us volunteer however long we
Mhm.
decide to sit up there and take account, take a look, note potential accidents or close accidents. And that would give us a lot of information.
I think that would. That's a very good idea.
I know that, just for your guys' information, I swim about once a week if I can. And so I drive up there and it's always between 11 and 1. And it's a trickle. That is not busy time at all. 11 to 1.
Okay.
Okay.
I
But
never
what is
have
the
some.
busy time at the pool, Karen? Do you know?
Well, see, they're open for lap swim, but you can come when you want. So that possibly when water aerobic starts at a certain time, so maybe they get about a dozen or so at the same time, but I've never had someone coming down Solano when I've made that right turn. But I went today and I just tried Monterey, and I don't like it better.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
And the
so
speed limit's 15 on that street.
so you have the Litman, and you also have a preschool or a daycare
Right.
service one. And then you have the pool. So you got 3 main businesses.
Destinations.
Yeah, that
Yes.
pull a lot of people up there.
Christian, what are the school times? What are school hours?
The school hours, that's a good question. I need to ask my son. Hold on.
Are you at work
Okay.
already, Christian? I've always thought BES was like they drop off 8:15 and they start at 8:30, but Lippman may not be the same.
Yeah, I don't know anymore. I,
So 8:25, that's when the kids go into class, but they start,
Okay.
you know, congregating at 8 or
Yep.
7:45, something like
Yep.
that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
What about when did they get out in the, is it still 3 o'clock or something different?
Yeah, they get out at 3.
Okay. So maybe 3 to 3:30, 3:45 would be pickup, maybe.
Yeah, and I would talk to my
Although,
wife and my son to get more accurate times on that.
okay. Actually, I guess cars would arrive, but I bet they line up, right, before pickup. There's probably a line of cars, people who are doing pickup, I bet. So like 2:45 cars are already up there,
You
I'll bet.
know, well, if it's like BES with Christian, we'd want to hear from you, but there's after school care. And
Yes.
for the older kids, they sometimes go to the library till their kids are home from work. So it's not as busy in the afternoon as in the morning drop off.
Okay. Okay. All right.
So
I think
how
we do
hard would
need,
it be? I'm sorry.
go ahead.
How hard would it be to get one of those cable to do a count?
Yeah, I think we should.
Yes.
But we might want to do it within the limits of this area we're looking at versus further down Solano.
Right.
I think we'd want to know, I think we would want the police department's advice so that to where, and I think you would end up actually placing multiple counters at the same time if we have them, so that you can determine how many cars are going straight, how many cars are turning right or left on Mariposa and Monterey. Do you know what I mean? I mean, this becomes a little matrix.
We don't have
problem.
multiple counters though.
Okay. All right.
Patrick,
Linda?
yeah,
Linda?
I think it would work just as well to have multiple committee members in
Oh,
different
yeah, we need to do that.
segments. Monterey, corner of Solano, across the street, and just kind of observing different things like
Okay.
people not driving reasonably in these
Mhm.
areas with children involved. And you know, how many cars, somebody counting cars, someone on Monterey, you know, so we have our social distancing and three types of information being gathered before school and immediately after school.
Okay.
Just to measure the difference for one thing, but also to measure the amount of traffic, particularly in the morning, which I think is going to be the hardest
Yeah.
hit. Yeah.
I agree. So maybe we could split it up, have 2 teams of 2 people each. So we have one person at each intersection at the same time. And I don't know, I'm not sure how many days to do this on, whether we need to do it a full week or what do you guys think? Linda, you've counted a lot more cars than I have. What do you think?
I don't know about that anymore. You and I've counted a lot of cars together. I think that the committee should decide if
Okay.
we're not always all available at the same time.
Yeah.
But if we can be, multiple people watching different things will probably give us a pretty good idea of what we're dealing with and how to do the final, have data for figuring out the final, what's going to be up, what's going to be down, and maybe make a suggestion for the bus. Because Mariposa doesn't look like a great place for a bus to come up. Monterey's not that great either. It's pretty steep, and I would push for Mendocino, which is nearly flat and has a nearly flat turn onto Solano. So, but
Okay.
it's all stuff that we can discuss and gather data on. And I heard that Darius is very good on making computer magic happen. So that'll be great.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah, we'll have
Okay.
some great stuff. When Alex was on, Alex Payne was our go-to
Yes.
computer person that brought us into this century with this data, and it was wonderful. So I'm really grateful that you're here, Darius, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you can do for us, all as a team.
Yeah. All right,
I got a ping that staff that there are plans to repair the retaining wall. This is right at the top of Mariposa along Solano, where it's kind of bowed out and the sidewalks cordoned off there, and that we did collect data for the busy hours there. So I can forward that to you guys.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we should do both. And also from you guys' experience, you know, what will be statistically sounding, you know, and we could alternate that cable. We could have it in different areas. I don't think we have a you know, a aggressive timeline to wrap this up, right?
I think they'd like to see us wrap it up sooner than later and start ticking things off of our work list. But
Yes.
we don't need to do a sloppy job to do that. If it takes more time, we need to take the time to do it so that we're satisfied that what we're
Yeah.
recommending to the council is our best.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. So, Karen, when is that retaining wall work being done, or is that still in planning phase?
Not exactly sure, but I'm gonna say it's likely to be this summer.
Oh, okay. I think we want to be out there before then. I was thinking of getting out there before our next meeting. How does everybody else feel about that? Get out there for several days before our next meeting.
I can do that.
Kristen, you live there. You're going to be our go-to guy.
Oh, where do you live?
Yeah, I'm going to see if I could get an area where I could put a camera there.
Have your son count cars.
Yeah, I have my son, exactly. I'm gonna have my
I
kid
wonder
count
if
cars.
there's anyone on the block that has cameras already watching the street that we might be able
That's a good
to
idea. Yes.
ask if we can look at their video.
Right.
More
Yeah.
information is better.
That's right.
These are all such serious changes to the lifestyle that people are used to, and I just want to do the best we can. I know
Agreed.
you all do.
Yeah. So
Um,
you know, some get fun facts. The garbage is Thursday. You know, and then
Fun fact,
obviously-
huh?
and then we have obviously school, which I think from 7:30 to like 8:30 or 9, that would be a good time. And then when the kids get out, and I need to find out time from the Silver Spot,
Mhm.
the daycare too. You know,
That's a good
maybe-
idea.
yeah.
and also
okay.
any you know, major events in the pool.
Mhm.
I didn't realize the pool was open in winter. I thought it closed down. I mean, it's packed in the summer, but I didn't know with kids. I didn't know.
Water aerobics goes right through the most
Ah.
freezing parts of,
Okay.
and the hardest part is getting back out.
Yes.
To get all warmed
Yes.
up and then you freeze on your way in.
Yeah, getting out. That's right. Yeah.
Are those fields utilized for anything? The baseball field there, or soccer field? Is there any sort of sports that happen there?
There's
Used to be.
soccer, AYSO soccer.
That's not in season currently, is that?
It may not be.
Mm.
That's true.
Yeah, that's a good question. I know there's also tennis, but I don't know. You know, I don't think they get that much activity. It's just like few people that go there.
Okay. No, get big games on Saturdays, say, or weeknights or something.
No, with two
Mm.
courts, doesn't, and very little parking. It doesn't draw, and a porta potty, it doesn't draw a big crowd.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I see
Okay.
a lot of it at BES, but I'm not up that way so much, so I have no idea.
Okay.
Actually, you know, before I forget, there's been a lot of construction in the school, so that has brought a lot of dump trucks. So we could add more to the mix.
Ah. Oh,
Yeah.
That's a factor.
Um,
Baseball, there's baseball out there.
baseball's starting.
There used to be regular baseball out there, but like I said, I'm not aware, and I don't know if the field is maintained for that. Used to be full of a bunch of holes that made it difficult for sports. But is there baseball out there?
I don't know, we're getting a little off the main topic.
Oh, yeah. Let me ask the question, is everyone available, say, over the next 3 weeks to be able to go out there, say, one morning, and then on maybe a different day, one afternoon?
I can be available.
I can
Okay,
as well.
I can, okay.
Yeah,
Christian,
we
is
should
that?
probably work on a schedule and have
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
let's pick
So-
up and then people will choose what day they're available.
okay.
Yeah.
And I guess we better put a person at each intersection. I think we need 2 people out there. I don't think one person can say, be here. I don't know if there's enough visibility for one person at one intersection to see both. What do you guys think? I mean, that
I agree.
means,
Agreed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
okay. Do you want to try and pick some dates now, or do we want to try and organize this through Karen, through email and through Karen?
If I can
Go ahead.
suggest something, if we have the dates laid out with times and send that email out with, there's a type of email you can send out where people can answer, I'll take that slot. I'll
Yes.
take that slot. If we could do that, then, wherever it's not covered, whoever's available can jump and cover that spot. But,
Okay.
that works
A
well
doodle
for me.
poll. A doodle poll.
Is that what it
Doodle
is?
poll.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I like that. That works with a lot of other stuff that I do, so.
So the range is like next week for 3 weeks, Monday through Thursday or Friday. I mean, there'll be some gaps in there, but at least you won't pick the same date as someone else, or you might pick 2 together if that's what you want.
Right.
Okay.
Our next meeting is scheduled for the 4th of April, right? So 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that gives us 3 weeks to work through this. Yeah, yeah. Karen, can you organize a doodle poll
Poll.
like that?
Yeah, I'm probably going to assign it to Tomas. He's
Okay, very good.
Thought, but he's listening.
Okay,
All right, so
okay,
we know what the next step is.
yes. And then we can look at those results. And maybe we want to count, I think sound out here, we want to count cars. We want to count turns. We want to count first behavior, whatever it may be.
Mhm.
What else would we want to, anything else that we,
I don't think we need to count kids, so that's
Okay.
kind of irrelevant.
Okay. I think we should know which way the cars are going,
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
turns.
I was expecting more qualitative information, but if you guys actually do counts, that's great.
I think some counts would help us. But I think it's hard. We're not going to be counting accidents, hopefully. So, and even if we did, it might be one which is not significant statistically. So that's, I think, where the qualitative aspect comes in. But I think we should look at how many people are turning here and maybe count kind of incidents. And then I would even count an incident, like right-of-way hesitation, somebody coming, looking at the picture right now, somebody coming towards us on Solano and somebody trying to make a left turn. Are they both not doing it? Are they both going straight through? Things like that. I think that would be very important to
Mhm.
know. Okay.
Yeah, we need to have, all those criterias and then have some sort of columns and start putting sticks
Yeah.
on them.
I'll create a tally sheet. I'll send it to
Cool.
Karen and she can send it around and make suggestions and changes. And then we can figure out what's the best way to do it. And then we can all use the same type of tally sheet.
Sounds great.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I think we're at a stopping point on that topic. Is there anything else we should, anybody other comments? Okay. Shall we move on
Back to
to,
the agenda, Tomas. I think we're done with the work plan. Perfect.
Yeah.
Staff
shall we
update?
move on to staff updates? Yes.
Yeah, I've got a few here. At what I updated you guys about in January and we didn't meet in February, one of the items was the bike lane northbound on Bayshore at the 101 flyover off ramp 426A exit. And I had said that I sent the stuff to South San Francisco, what are the next steps? And they said, yeah, great, we'll make the signs, you do the pavement markings. That's what I updated you guys in January. Since then, I think the information got forwarded to their sign makers and they said, well, these aren't standard MUTCD signs. We want to take a little closer look at this. We'll get back to you. And I sent them a couple of emails saying, we've studied this in depth. These are the ways we think it'll make it safer. I would love to walk you through the process that we did so that they didn't go and redo the whole process that we had done, And they wanted to and initiated getting a consultant on board to take a look at that weaving, that mixing of bikes and cars, because typically, like our residents had said, is typically cars yield bikes. So their consultant came up with this plan where car would actually, Randy, we see you moving around in the dark. Okay. It's going to join
Say
us.
again?
Typically cars would yield to bikes. So
Yeah.
they created this kind of layout where a car would come off the off ramp in the same alignment and would then, if a bike were present, would have to yield, stop, while they're accelerating on Bayshore and coming around, curve with some sight distance issues. So we were concerned at that meeting and said that our police strongly didn't recommend it and that we'd like them to think about that and their police talk to our police before they recommended it. So this was their engineering staff. I had their principal engineer that's kind of my parallel, their deputy director that's from the maintenance side, and their director, and Randy and I, and they kind of said, yeah, we kind of see what you're saying. Like, we're just really concerned, and our police are really concerned that a car would not stop and a bicyclist would be killed. Like you're in that lane, you can't see, and you're trying to accelerate, and a bike appears in front of you. There's not even probably stop sight distance. So they had those conversations, and in the meantime, I asked about South San Francisco had been talking to Caltrans about their options for the managed lanes project, which the 3 longer serving committee members have heard about. Daria's probably a little newer to you unless I told you a little at orientation, but what has happened other places in the Bay Area and is moving up the peninsula is an HOV lane, a fast track lane, or if you're in a carpool, you'll have the left lane is going to be changed into a carpool lane, essentially, to simplify. And they've said that one option is to move that off ramp a little bit further north to accommodate what they're planning to do. And we had asked them, they're doing environmental work on the options. We had asked them to consider making a standard crossing for bikes and peds if that background noise, if that flyover has to move. So they had been doing some kind of sketching, drawing, So South San Francisco arranged for us to meet with Caltrans's consultant. And what they came up with to make a safe weaving situation or, crossing a bike and ped was that cars would have to come off perpendicular to Bayshore, kind of doing a visual with my hands, perpendicular to Bayshore to get cars to stop. And essentially probably be a traffic signal there. That'd be the only way that they felt it was safe to make cars stop and yield to bikes coming up Bayshore. And so I think that convinced South San Francisco that their consultant that had said cars coming along the Bayshore alignment shouldn't be forced to stop to yield to a car crossing, or that we shouldn't design it that way. So at this point, I think I've asked back to South San Francisco to kind of close this loop. They had said maybe instead of bikes yield to autos, they weren't comfortable with that. It would be watch for autos, watch for bikes, just more warning signs. So I've got it. That's still, I need to still close that loop and bring that back to you with what's decided. I've kind of been in contact. I think there's a few on their team that are considering things, so I haven't heard a final. But I think it makes sense if you, and I don't know if you guys are understanding what I'm trying to describe, but if you want a car coming off the flyover to yield to a bike crossing, then they should have to come to a stop, and that works in a perpendicular alignment, not in a parallel alignment.
Not an acceleration lane.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're gonna see when you come to a stop, you look, you see to the.
Yeah.
So that's an update on that. I will post it. Hopefully I'll have a lot more next time, or maybe we can have signs put in by then, would be nice.
So Karen, regarding that, who has the jurisdiction? Is it them or us, or is it shared?
Shared. So Caltrans owns the flyover, and if they had to move it, they're dropping it onto a city street. So it's kind of a shared intersection if it were an intersection.
Mm-hmm.
And do we have any feedback? Has this been run by legal counsel in Brisbane City Hall?
I think it's too soon to do that. These are just like concepts. They also did, they shared with us kind of a 30% design of having a separated bike lane that went under the flyover. So it would be cut into the slope between Bayshore and 101. But they suggested that would be the city's responsibility to maintain, despite it being in, predominantly or in some part in Caltrans right away. So that's a challenge, and that's probably more expensive than the perpendicular.
How long is that stretched? It can be done with some metal structure that you don't have to do a lot of grading and paving. It's almost like a little bridge, right?
It was, there are standards for how steep it can be. So it was 500 feet. It wasn't short, I would say. It's in a short little bridge.
This is a bridge under.
It wasn't a bridge. It was cut into the slope. It's kind of probably easier to maintain once it's built permanently into the slope.
Mm-hmm.
There'd be more to look at before anything, happens.
That when we
sketching ideas.
when we went through the whole exercise, it was what was taking the feedback from the police, the Brisbane police, was to get that ambiguity who has the right of way, because that has not been solved, and that is out there, and sooner or later, hopefully nothing happens. But that's something that I don't know if there should be some sort of clarification now before something happens, just to make sure there's not that ambiguity. And we were working in that type of mind frame.
I guess, as a bicyclist who has ridden that area, not a lot, but has ridden it over the many years I worked in Brisbane, I I don't think I'd ever pull in front of a car going even 40 miles an hour unless I knew I had enough space. And I think that's, keep in mind, before we put in that green lane, people were doing the exact same thing. There were still people commuting and riding bikes, and they'd ride up and they'd get over when they could. And we have never had a bicycle accident yet. Not to say, you know, anything can happen, but I think a bicycle, I can't think of who would assume they have the right of way because they think an attorney told them that and would ride in front of a car going 40, 50 or whatever miles per hour. Even though,
I mean, I do get your point, and I think that's where we landed at, is that the bike should yield to the car exactly because what you said, but we just need to make that that clear, you know.
but South San Francisco was reluctant to put that on the sign, so we're in this like, you know, gray area that's sort of like how it was before we did anything up there.
Yeah, because I think maybe you know, just sort of thinking about how you want to make your community and even this major sort of streets that connect, you know, city to city, like Bayshore is one of them, that those bicycle routes, once they are in a area, they need to be more respectful of the general traffic rules rather than, obviously, you know, it's understandable that you have to yield to pedestrians and bicycles, but in a park, in a community. But once you go into this main streets like Bayshore Boulevard, you have to more follow in the general rules of traffic, not just because you're riding a bike, you're going to have the, you know, the right of way to pass something or yield something.
Yeah, I mean, a bicycle is, for the vehicle code, is a vehicle, and we saw Peter Grace saying, I'm riding on San Bruno and I put up my hand to turn left, or I'm riding towards San Bruno northbound on Bayshore and I put up my hand to go left, and I'm going 25 miles per hour and he wants the car to yield to him. I mean, it's the law of physics. I think maybe in the short term before, and we don't know the managed lanes project, if option is chosen to move the ramp, we would end up with a better solution. One of those two, I think. In the shorter term, maybe we can do a lot more about outreach to casual cyclists to be going the other route, Lagoon, Sierra Point Parkway, and along the Bay Trail to go to Destination South. And
I think there's a commuter route, right? I mean, these are people coming out of Genentech and so forth who live in Brisbane, right?
that is
And,
correct. And they said that they weren't feeling unsafe there. They were concerned about more casual riders.
Right, that's right. Which, okay.
So if we had a
Let's
map
move
that,
on.
like,
Yeah. That's a good idea, actually. Because they could get around on the Bay Trail and come out through, well, I guess it's a longer route, but you'd end up on Tunnel Road then, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't we move on to other updates? I don't know if we'll have an answer to this yet, but let's keep us posted. We'll keep working on it.
no, I don't think we will yet. I have a little bit of an update on the shelters, and this is where Tomas, I was hoping you could show the web pages that I emailed you. I'm putting them through the paces here. So this, I gotta look at my photo. This is the shelter that was ordered for 140 Valley Drive.
Good.
Got the specs. Give me a second. I forgot that I was gonna have to have those ready for you.
Okay.
We went with, and there wasn't, everything was not available, so we kind of had to pick the original plan, decision, and take what we could get. A dark bronze anodized aluminum finish frame. Can you scroll down to the roof types? So it's similar to what's shown there, color-wise. Polyhip roof. Polyhip roof is the middle one of the 9 with white polycarbonate material, glazing clear tempered safety glass.
Okay. It looks nice.
So that's on order. And now it was at the most 12 weeks. It was ordered in late January. So we are about at the halfway point of having the materials and getting them installed.
So end of April, maybe.
Yeah, I
May
mean, assuming we
timeframe.
can schedule it, yeah, I'd say May at the latest.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
the other,
Great.
the other webpage. This is, can
Oh.
scroll over to the right a little bit to the 2-seat. So these
Oh,
are what was selected for ADA reasons because the slope on San Bruno is like 5%, and the ADA says that your seat height should only range from 17 to 19 inches. So, you know, we had a lot of discussion about this. If you place a bench on that 5% slope, it would be 18 inches everywhere, but everyone would slide towards each other on the downhill. You know, you'd be closer than you might want to be to someone you don't necessarily know. So something like this is short enough that we can shim it so that it's level and it still stays within that 17 to 19 inch.
nice.
So then
Nice.
the problem became that there's one manufacturer of this product and you can only buy 12 of them. And I was a little reluctant to do that because I wasn't sure how the community would feel about it. You know, it is a kind of unique, it is a unique and not standard type of seat. So I had an extended conversation with the seller and it came up that South San Francisco uses these. Or I think I asked because our inspector said, I've seen those in South San Francisco. So I communicated with the same team on the bike crossover and they're going to sell us.
Great.
So we're getting
Fantastic.
it. We're getting it this week. It should be in the next couple of weeks there. And that is at San Bruno at Mendocino where we poured a pad, make a little to improve that bus stop. So that's going to be the test case. And I will be really excited to hear if you guys get feedback or however we get feedback.
Yeah,
And South San Francisco uses blue. So I think it's this color.
great. It looks fun. It looks like a fun bench, actually. It looks very
Yeah.
inviting.
Let's
Yeah.
make sure everyone doesn't hate it and we'll go from there.
Yeah,
So that's that.
great.
On the Mission Blue traffic calming, Patrick, you'd asked for an update. So I guess there are a little bit of supply chain issues even on this stuff. I'm good with that, Tomas. I guess you can go back to the agenda. The delineators were on back order and they're on order coming in. Planters have arrived and we are working on whether we're going to affix them or just fill them. They're kind of heavy. So that's in process. I would expect that to happen in the next few weeks. Traffic calming
Okay.
on Mission Blue at Checker Spot.
Okay.
And last, did you want me to mention officers? Was that for me? The
Go ahead. Go
election
ahead.
of officers last year happened in April. So next month we will want to elect a chair and vice chair. Think about that for next month.
Okay. We'll have
And-
our election next week for chair and vice chair.
Next month, yeah, in April.
Next month.
I'm sorry, next month. Next month. Yeah.
So that's all I have for staff updates.
Okay. Thank you. Do any committee members have anything to update on?
This is also for new
Okay.
members. Darius, committee members can bring up items that they want to discuss that then the majority of the committee or the chair thinks should become a priority to work on. And that's how you put something on the agenda to have a public discussion on it. Bring it up here. The majority or the chair decides, yes, let's put it on the agenda in the future. Gives you an opportunity to communicate.
Got
those.
it. Nothing this time, but maybe next time.
No, not pressuring you at all.
Okay. Christian or Linda, do you have anything?
No, I think
Okay.
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. I have a couple things. And actually, Karen, can we have a member list put together, a roster with emails and mobile phones distributed to everyone?
Yep.
Okay. And then everyone but Darius knows that we used to meet on Wednesdays and it got moved to Mondays for a committee member that was very contributory, and he's now not on our committee anymore. So do we want to move back to Wednesday? I am completely neutral on this, but I wanted to seek everyone's thoughts as whether Wednesday was no difference or better or worse. We don't have to decide this tonight, but if anybody had any thoughts on that?
I've gotten rather
Linda?
used to Mondays, and if it works for everybody, that works for me. Middle of the week, I kind of
Okay.
like to keep open in case I want to go camping or something like that. And having it close to the weekend is nice. It works, and I'm open.
Okay.
also.
Okay, all right. I see Darius nodding with that. Christian,
no
do you
strong
have any
preference.
preference? Okay. Christian?
I think Wednesday's probably a better day for me, but I do what the majority would say.
Okay. Karen, staff?
Yeah, we talked a bit and staff is fine with either day. We are,
Okay,
if we're meeting in person, Wednesday, City Hall is open and that's slightly preferable for that reason, but remotely it's, they're the same for us.
okay, all right.
So talking about meeting
Um,
in person, when are we gonna be meeting in person soon?
No, I think the city's being very cautious about everything at this point. City Hall is only open 2 days a week. They're planning in April to open Wednesday for part of the evening, actually, 1 to 7 to the public, so that people that want to do business in person have a couple evening hours. But we're not even fully open. We're still told to work from home as much as we can. So I don't think we're there yet. We all hope we're going in that direction, right? But I wouldn't hazard a guess at this point because I'm not deciding it and nobody can read the crystal ball, I guess.
It just seems
Um,
that a lot of people are, going back to normal as much as possible.
And I would say the city is pretty on the conservative end of the spectrum, but yeah.
And I appreciate the
All right.
city being on the conservative end of the spectrum
I
because
do too.
I read a lot about what's coming down the pike, and we're not out of the woods yet with this by any means.
We've had so many false starts over the last 2 years,
Yeah,
false restarts.
we've had a couple of cases bounce around City Hall. I had it and then I thought I had the flu because my home tests were negative. And I think I would say it was an exposure for Tomas, but luckily, knock on wood, he didn't get it from me. So.
Well, the nice thing about Zoom is you only have to get dressed up from the waist up, and then you don't have to brush your teeth. Nobody knows if you've had a shower.
Well, that's another piece is that the governor put in place the second part of the law that allows a local agency to pass a resolution month by month saying for the health and safety of the community, we will still meet remotely. So if that ends, then we would have to meet in person, but as far as I know, it's still in place now.
Regarding meeting Monday or Wednesday, I think we're split as a committee. So let's put this on the agenda for a vote at the next meeting. And I think that's just the best way to answer it because we're kind of both ways. So, one other thing that I had was during I guess it was in February, Karen sent out a webinar being put on by San Mateo County Transportation Authority, and it was on safe streets and complete streets. I attended that. And I found very early on, they had a 15 or 20-minute segment that was presented by a consultant. And I'm going to send Karen the link and to send to each of you. And I would suggest that you watch that because he talks about all of the latest thinking in terms of where the country is going in terms of safe streets, in terms of reducing speed limits, I mean, we're all on board with becoming less car centric and realizing that streets are used by bicycles and pedestrians and scooters and skateboards and such. But this actually takes it to the point of working within public works departments and what are public works departments doing differently. So, and I think that's a good education for all of us to have to in terms of where things are going. And so it's for our own, so I'd encourage everyone to watch that and when you get a chance. And I found it to be a very good video segment. Beyond the stop point, you're going to learn how to apply for grants, and we don't need to do that. So cut it off when this guy stops talking. Okay, that's everything. Is there anything else? Any member matters that we want to discuss? Okay. Our next meeting is Monday, what did I say? The 4th?
4th,
April?
I believe.
Yeah. Okay. That concludes our business for tonight, I believe. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second that.
Okay.
You got 2.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Thank
Good
you,
meeting.
everyone.
Thank
Meeting
you.
adjourned.
Thank
Very
you.
good meeting. Thank you,
Aye.
Karen.
All right. Good
Good
night,
night.
everyone.
Tomas.
Good night.
Good night.